They laughed while the alien girl starred. She was small, her frame thin and frail, her strange violet eyes heavy with hunger, her trembling hands clutching her stomach as the others in the outpost mocked her. She had been left behind by her kind, forgotten or abandoned. No one truly knew the reason, but the humans on this mining colony saw her as a curiosity, a fragile creature that could be toyed with rather than helped. They would pass her by in the mess hall, waving their steaming plates of food before her face and chuckling when she looked away in shame. She was too proud to beg, too frightened to speak up, her alien tongue broken and halting when she tried to mimic their words. She would curl up near the corner of the hall, her stomach growling as they feasted and jeered. She had been found weeks earlier, stumbling from the edge of the barren wasteland where the mine stretched deep into the crust of the world. She was weak and fevered, her lips cracked, her body covered in dust and bruises. When the miners dragged her, and they thought at first she was some sort of animal, some strange local life form that had wandered close. But when she lifted her face, they saw her eyes luminous and sorrowful, and they knew she was no beast. She was a girl, and not human. Her ears tapered, her skin faintly luminous, as though lit from within, her hair a cascade of silver strands that caught the faintest light. Yet to them, she was alien, which meant different, and to many of them different meant dangerous or worse, useless. The colony was harsh, resources scarce, and so the excuse was simple: why waste food on a creature that might not even survive? Why give to her when their own men worked long hours in the mines? They would laugh and say she should learn to fend for herself. They would toss crumbs on the ground and watch her struggle, not out of cruelty alone, but because they had hardened their hearts to survive. Yet cruelty it was, and cruelty she endured. But one human watched in silence, a young worker named Elias, his clothes ragged, his hands scarred from long hours at the machines. He too did not have much. He lived on the edge of hunger himself, yet he had something the others lacked: a heart that still felt compassion. Each day he would see her sitting small and trembling, her eyes distant with despair, and each day his chest would tighten, until finally one evening he rose from his seat carrying his tray of meager stew and dry bread, and he walked to her corner, the laughter of the others trailing behind him. "Come eat with me," he said softly, his voice not mocking but steady. He set the tray down before her. The alien girl froze, her luminous eyes widening, her lips parting, as if to ask if this was some trick. She glanced toward the men, who still chuckled at their tables, but Elias only nodded to her gently. "Eat," he urged. She hesitated, then her hands darted forward, seizing the bread. She tore into it, with desperate hunger, tears welling in her eyes as she ate, as if she feared it would be snatched away. Her throat worked as she swallowed too fast, choking slightly. Elias reached out, steadying her, and offered her the bowl. She drank the broth with shaking hands, every drop gone in seconds. The hall had fallen strangely quiet. The laughter dulled as they watched this act of kindness that none of them had dared or cared to give. Yet Elias did not notice them, his eyes only on the girl. As she ate at last, she slowed, her breathing ragged, but her gaze lifted to him, filled with something deeper than gratitude. It was trust, faint and fragile, like a spark of light in darkness. She whispered a sound, her voice soft, musical, though broken by her struggle to form human words: "Thank you." From that moment, something changed. Elias would share his meals with her each day, sometimes giving half, sometimes all when he had enough to last. Without, she began to follow him, staying closer steps, uncertain, but growing steadier, her frame gaining strength. The other men mocked him now, calling him foolish, wasting food on an alien pet. But he did not care. He saw the girl's spirit flicker brighter. With each passing day, he heard her try to form words, mimicking his language more clearly. She began to smile faintly when he arrived. She began to live. Then came the day the mines collapsed. A tremor shook the ground, throwing men to their knees. Alarms blared as dust filled the corridors. Elias was inside when it happened, trapped with others deep beneath the rock. Panic spread. Some shouted for rescue. Others despaired as the tunnels caved. The girl had been outside in the colony square when the ground split. But when she heard his name, when she sensed his absence, she ran to the danger. While others held back, she slipped through cracks small enough for her. Her frame moved through air shafts that humans could not fit. She followed the faint sound of groans and a trail of dust, and there she found him, pinned by debris, his breath ragged, his eyes dim with pain. Her hands glowed faintly as she touched the stones, her alien body carrying strange energies unknown to humans. She strained with all her strength, though she was small. The light from her palms seeped into the rocks, vibrating them, loosening them, until at last they shifted. She pulled him free, dragging him with desperate determination through narrow passages, until they emerged, gasping into the open light. The miners stared in shock. The same alien girl they had mocked, the one they had let starve, was now carrying one of their own upon her shoulders. Elias was brought to the infirmary where his wounds were treated. The alien girl refused to leave his side, her hand clasping his blood staining her skin. Yet she would not let go. When he awoke, his first sight was her weary face, her silver hair matted, her eyes shining with relief. She whispered again, "Thank you," but this time it was he who said it first. From then on, the colony began to change. They could no longer ignore her, not after what she had done. Whispers spread that she might be valuable, that her kind perhaps had gifts worth protecting. But more than that, some felt shame for their laughter, shame for their cruelty. Elias spoke for her. He told them she was no burden, but a friend. He told them they owed her respect, because she had given them more than they had ever given her. She had given life itself. Slowly, the attitude shifted. Food was no longer withheld. She was given clothing, shelter, a place among them. Though still some muttered, still some distrusted her. Yet when they saw her with Elias, when they saw her glowing smile as she worked to help mend tools or carry supplies, they began to soften. The alien girl was no longer only the starving child in the corner. She was hope. She was a reminder of what kindness could build. As weeks turned to months, Elias and the alien girl grew inseparable. She learned more words each day, her voice clearer, her laughter ringing across the dusty streets. She asked questions, curious about everything. He taught her to read, to count, to understand their machines. And she showed him her gifts, her strange energy that could mend cracked stone or heal small wounds. She shared with him the songs of her people's soft melodies that echoed like starlight. He listened in awe. At night, she would sit beside him, gazing at the stars, her eyes filled with longing for home. She had lost, yet less sorrow now, for she was not alone. Elias was there, a friend, her protector, her companion. And perhaps in time, something deeper, her hand would brush his gently and linger, her smile shy, her heart beating with unfamiliar warmth. The colony changed because of them. Laughter still echoed in the mess hall, but no longer cruel. Now shared, and warm food was eaten together, not flaunted or withheld. The alien girl, once mocked, now sat at the center, her silver hair shimmering, her violet eyes bright with life. And Joy Elias at her side, the one human, who said, "Come eat with me," and in that simple act had changed not only her fate, but the fate of them all. She had been starving for food, but also for kindness, for belonging, for love. And in giving it, Elias found himself nourished too, for where others had seen an alien, he had seen a girl, and she had become his world.